Good morning. Welcome to the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. I'm Gary Bell along with Brad Pollock. We are injury attorneys. As you know, each week we bring the show to you to educate you, to teach you about a different injury subject. Hopefully we give you an equal playing field with the insurance companies who defend against these claims. Once you've been injured, it's not an ordinary day or event for you, but it is an ordinary day and event for the insurance company. And you've got to know what your rights are. You've got to know what to do. And so we try to cover a different injury subject each week to give you the knowledge, the information, the power to fight these insurance companies, because they've got their highly trained adjusters. They've got their own doctors. They have their lawyers. And don't believe they don't. And don't believe they're not highly trained. And don't believe they don't know what questions to ask you. When they get you on the phone, they've got a script, they've got their questionnaires, they've got their forms. You need to know what to do. Bell and Pollock, injury attorneys. We've been doing this for over 25 years. And you know, anytime you're injured in an accident, we can help you put your life back together again. You can get a free initial consultation from Bell and Pollock, 303-795-5900. And when you come in, you get a free legal game plan addressed and tuned to your specific situation. We've developed this legal game plan over 25 years. We do it for you. We can do it. We can tell you what to do. And by the way, when you leave our office armed with the legal game plan, you know what to do. You know what your rights are. You know what the insurance company is going to try to do against you. How good is that? So you need to do it early, 303-795-5900. And don't forget our website, championsofthepeople.com. That's championsofthepeople.com. It's an information-loaded website. We do it for you. Okay, today we're talking about balanced billing. What is balanced billing? So you go to the doctor. Let's say you're injured in a car crash. But a lot of the comments Brad and I are going to make today would apply to you even if you weren't injured in a car crash or a trauma or a slip and fall or a premises liability. They would apply to the ordinary situation of going to the doctor. But our example is today you're injured in a car crash. You're treating with your doctor. You've got a health insurance card. Let's just call it Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or any of them. You've got your health insurance card. So you go to the doctor and you get the doctor gets paid by your health insurance company, but all of a sudden you get a bill. So Brad, let's talk about, what these doctors can do, can't do, so everybody understands that concept before we get into more specifics.
Well, I'm going to get into that concept in just a minute, but I need to make sure everybody understands. I've said this for 2 weeks running now. I'm going to say it for a third week. If you go into the hospital and you get handed a form or set of documents for Avectus Healthcare Solutions, and it says on there, "Let us help you," they're not helping you. Do not fill out those forms. You don't have to fill out those forms. Do not fill them out. Give them your insurance card. Tell them to use your insurance card and get everything else over to a lawyer. Just say, "No, I will not do it. Avectus has no right to that information. There's no reason you should give it to them." And for them to say on the front of it, "Let us help you," they're not helping you, folks. They're not. And it's not going to be a help to you. Try and figure out, how can they be helping me when I already have health insurance that's supposed to cover my stay and is going to take care of everything?
In the last 2 weeks, we did a show on just those subjects. So if you want to listen to those podcasts, you can. But another question, Brad, you brought up a great point there before we get into today's subject. How can they be helping you? You've got health insurance. What are they doing? What are they doing there when you got health insurance anyway? Guess what? They're gonna institute a situation where your health insurance doesn't even apply. They don't even want your card. So you've got to ask yourself the question, why would I just go in there and I've had health insurance for years, I paid the premium, and say, I don't need that. I'll just go with this new situation here that they just gave me some papers on.
So listen to it very carefully. Do not fill it out. And you even think to yourself, well, how can they help me? I'm in the hospital. I'm getting health care. I've got my health care insurance. How am I possibly being helped? And if you don't have health care insurance, they're not going to help you there either. What you're going to need at that point, if you've been hurt as a result of a negligence of another, you're going to have a lawyer come help you, because that's who's going to be the one to help you. So we go back. We talk about what's going on in the hospital. When you go into the hospital or when you go into the doctor and you see a doctor, you give them your health insurance card. That health insurance card now takes over as far as what kind of care you're going to get. It talks about what kind of care you're going to get. It talks about what providers you're going to get. It opens the world to manuals and volumes of documents. The hospitals have protocols with your particular health insurance company. Those protocols say if you come in with certain symptoms or certain problems or certain difficulties or certain conditions, there's protocols that the doctors who are in the network who agree to accept the insurance. There's protocols with hospitals on what they're who are in the network and agree to accept the insurance on what they can do. It also identifies what they can't do. And what you want to do is you go in, if you want, and you hand them the card, you want to make sure that it's understood. I want in-network providers. I want participating providers. Either way, participating or in-network providers. I want to make sure you're an in-network and participating hospital.
Right, and we're going to try to get to the emergency room and the hospital visits toward the end of the program today because that's very complicated, and we're going to try to outline the rules for you first simply. But let's say you're injured in a car crash, you're going to your PCP, your primary care doctor. You go in there, and if this doctor is in your network, and they should be, make sure they are, and you ask.
He probably is or he or she is if they're your PCP. You would think they already are.
So everything's fine. So let's make up an example. So you go to your doctor, and the retail value of the services, the bill should be $500 for that visit, that day, that procedure. Okay, so the doctor bills your insurance company, let's just call it Blue Cross Blue Shield, and let's say, for example, we're just making this part up right now, Blue Cross Blue Shield pays them $300 instead of the $500. The question is, can the doctor then bill you the extra $200? And that's the first part of our equation, and that's the first part of what we're going to talk about today.
The answer is absolutely not. If the doctor is is provided as participating provider, no, the doctor cannot do that. Why? Because the doctor entered into a contract with your health insurance company, and last week we used Aetna as the health insurance company. He entered into a contract with Aetna Health Insurance Company, and he or she agreed that they would only charge you $300 for this particular care, even though their, quote, retail billing is $500. Now, understand, don't be feeling bad for the doctor. The doctor already entered into the contract knowing that he or she will make money by charging the $300. They know they're going to make a profit. They're not entering into contracts to deal with a bunch of health insurance companies' patients with losing rates. They have rates where they're going to make a profit. And they're going to make money in their practice, accepting the insurance company money. If not, then they wouldn't be there anymore because they don't have about a year, I guess, Gary, of having losing dollar rates, and then they wouldn't be in business.
They wouldn't do it anymore. But okay, so that's called balanced billing. Do you get the idea? You go to your doctor, or let's say that your doctor refers you to a specialist, a neurologist, or a radiologist, and you go there, that you get a bill. Make sure they're in network. If they're in network, and you're checking to make sure they're in network, so then they can't bill you the balance. So in our example, they collect the $300 from the health insurance company, your health insurance company. They can't send you a bill for the rest of the other $200. And there's a statute in Colorado that prevents that. So not only are the doctors bound by the contract they entered into with the health insurance company, your health insurance company, your card. Not only are they bound by that contract, but there's a statute in Colorado. It's 10-16-705. And it says that they cannot balance bill. All right. And this has had quite a history in Colorado, so you need to pay attention to this. But you must insist that they're within network and have your doctor check. Some of the doctors check. But if you go to an out-of-network doctor, now we're not talking about emergency basis yet. We're going to get to an emergency basis later. But if you go to an out-of-network doctor, Brad, then what's the situation under the statute and the regulations?
Well, now you've got a different story because you decided to go to a non-participating doctor, an out-of-network doctor. Now, that doctor can charge you the retail rates, and that doctor can collect the retail rates. That doctor probably will not run the bill through insurance. Even if the doctor does, you've got a more than likely situation where the insurance will either say, no, doctor, we're not paying you at all because you're not in our network, or they're going to say, here, doctor, here's what we'll pay you. Because you're not on our network, this is the amount we're willing to pay you, whatever it may be. It may be the amount that is the contract price by participating doctors. It may be lesser or more. Now, I doubt it would ever be more because the insurance companies want an incentive for doctors to sign up with them. So it's probably less. That's what you're normally going to get is less. And when the doctor ends out having to take less, now this doctor can balance bill you. No, Gary.
That's a doctor that's not in your network, not in your card, not on your provider, not in your system. Then they can balance
that you have voluntarily gone to, that you understand and you know what's going on. And Gary, you have to set aside co-pays, and you have to set aside any kind of money you have, deductibles that you have to pay, because you have deductibles or co-pays. Don't talk about those.
Well, you're going to get billed for those. Yeah,
and that's different. Right now, we're just talking about whether the doctor can bill you the balance of what the insurance company pays the doctor. And the answer is, if it's a non-participating doctor that you have voluntarily agreed to, yes, the doctor is going to bill you.
So you need to find out at the very beginning, even if you're referred to a specialist, is a specialist or specialist, plural, are they in my network? And if they are, then they cannot balance bill you because they've got a contract and there's a statute. And also, the Department of Regulatory Agencies came into play here. We're going to cover that after the break.
Make sure they understand, Gary, that's not the hospital. No, that's the doctor.
Yeah, we're not talking about the hospital yet. We're going to get to the hospital. You want to hear that. That's coming up after the break. So you're listening to the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. We are injury attorneys. We do car crash cases all over the state of Colorado, big ones, medium, small ones. We do workers' compensation cases. We do injury cases. We've been doing it for over 25 years, and I can't begin to tell you how many people's lives we've helped put them back together best we can, get them paid by the insurance company, not be taken advantage of. We have a legal game plan we've formulated with our years of experience. Help us put our experience to work for you. You want the legal game plan, come in and see us. It's free. Our website, championsofthepeople.com. We'll be right back.
Ready for an extraordinary lunch? As fast or as slow as you want it? With all fresh ingredients? Caitlin's Restaurant has it all. Express lunches that won't keep you waiting. Or, if you prefer, lunch served in that old-fashioned homemade style. All made fresh on the spot. Whether it's a fresh-made sandwich with homemade chips, quesadilla loaded with cheddar or jack cheeses, or scratch-made soups, you'll find everything you love at Caitlin's. Caitlin's is located on Mississippi just east of Colorado Boulevard next to Bookies. How about green chili chicken stew? Think about a variety of fresh-made sandwiches or 11 different kinds of burgers made to order with 1/2 pound of the finest USDA choice lean ground beef. You might favor a homemade New Mexican recipe with carne adobada burritos, chicken enchiladas, carnitas burritos served with hash brown special recipe beans, cheeses with guacamole, and your choice of homemade red or green chili sauces. For those who prefer the lighter side, there are fresh made salads and lighter fares, sure to delight. Try Caitlin's for lunch or breakfast on Mississippi just east of Colorado Boulevard next to Bookies. Call 303-798-6600. You'll love it every bite of the way.
You're on your way to the store, then boom, you're T-boned at 45 miles per hour. Instead of shopping, you're on your way to the ER. Then comes the doctor visits, prescriptions, therapy, diagnostics, ongoing treatment, and the limitations. You have range of motion problems. Then the ultimate insult. The insurance company makes you feel like the crash was your fault. You need a legal game plan. You want a legal game plan. At Bell & Pollock, we've used over 25 years of experience to develop a legal game plan just for you. Our game plan has injury rules, rules of treatment, rules of claims, insurance company rules, litigation rules, rules they use to beat you. Now you can have them and know them and use them to protect you and your family. Our Bell & Pollock legal game plan gives you the rules the insurance company doesn't want you to have, or know, or use. But guess what? We do. At Bell & Pollock, success is no accident. Find us at championsofthepeople.com. That's championsofthepeople.com. Get your free initial consult and your free legal game plan. We'll help you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. Our law firm is Bell and Pollock. We are injury attorneys, and we do cases all over the state of Colorado. If you want to give us a call, 303-795-5900. In the mountains, 970-870-8989. And our website, always, championsofthepeople.com. championsofthepeople.com. You couldn't forget that if you tried. Okay, and we'll give you a free initial consultation, a free legal game plan. Come in and see us anytime. Today we're talking about balanced billing. Today we're talking about you go to the doctor, you give them your health insurance card. Can the doctor balance bill you? Not if they're in your network. Not if they're in your network. If they're outside your network, they can. And you need to find out if they're in your network or not, because you don't want to go to a situation, you want to be surprised. And right before the break, Brad said that doesn't apply to copays or deductibles. That's different. You can be billed for those. Now, there was a study. The statute that we talked about said prevents these doctors from balanced billing. There was a study by DORA, Department of Regulatory Agencies, the Commissioner of Insurance. It was in 2010. The study was published January 21st, 2010, about consumer protections against balanced billing. And that statute was 10-16-7043. Okay, so the Department of Regulatory Agencies came to the conclusion this is beneficial to the consumers. The statute should continue. There shouldn't be balanced billing. So, Brad, let's go into the fact now. You go to the hospital. You're injured. And again, this can apply if you go to the emergency room for other than a car accident. But our example is a car accident because we are injury attorneys. So you're injured in a car accident. You go to the emergency room. Now what's going to happen?
All right. Now, when you're in the emergency room, what's going to happen is if you're able to sit there and they take your insurance information and they take your information, then you're now wanting to make sure you're at a facility or hospital that in fact is a participating provider that's in your network. If it's not, then you've got to find out why it's not in your network, or it really doesn't matter why. You've got to find out where the next closest one is and probably get yourself transported to that other hospital. You're going to want to make sure you're in a participating or a provider hospital.
But sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you show up in the ambulance. Sometimes they're going to treat you in the emergency room. They're not going to release you. You just were taken by the ambulance to the closest emergency room they could find.
So initially, the hospital is going to say that it is entitled to balance bill, that you're not within any of its participating networks or provider networks, that it's not insured with your insurance company or health insurance, and therefore it's going to say you're in essence, as far as they're concerned, uninsured, and they're going to want to bill you their retail prices. And they're going to want to, they'll probably still potentially submit a claim to your health insurance company, but when that claim doesn't get paid again, they're going to look and they're going to say, we want to have you pay that balance.
Or doesn't get paid in the full amount. And by the way, we're not unmindful. We're still remembering the fact that you can go to the emergency room and under some circumstances, it's they have to give you emergency care for free.
Or they have to give you emergency care within the necessary insurance company's rates that you have as a healthcare provider if it's an emergency and you truly need to have emergency care.
Right. So let's get the example. You go to the emergency room. This hospital is under your plan. You're in the emergency room. You've got a health insurance plan. And we've already told you, don't sign the Avexis forms. Don't sign off the way. Go under your plan. But when you go under your plan, Brad, it becomes complicated because sometimes you're there in the emergency room. You need blood tests. You need a CBC, a complete blood count. You need diagnostic tests. You need X-rays. You need MRIs. You need CT scans. And many times, these are different providers or independent providers that not in your network.
Well, and herein kicks in some situations. When you go into the hospital, if you're giving them your insurance card, first of all, if they're refusing you say, no, you have to take it. You have to take my insurance card. I want you to take my insurance card. Second thing is, a lot of times they want you to sign some initial documents. When you sign it, you'd be smart because, trying to read all those documents while you're in pain or if you're reading them for somebody else while they're in pain, all of it contingent on care. If you're smart, all you do is tell them, I want all participating providers to the extent possible, and I want all covered benefits. And if you can, write it at the bottom of the paper. Right up at the bottom of the paper, participating providers only and all benefits covered. Now, what's going to happen is the hospital at that point now is within, even if you haven't written it, basically the hospital is in a situation where they should not be providing you any more care than what they've had permission to provide through the insurance company, or if they think additional care is necessary, they should be calling to get permission to give it.
And it gives you a basis, if you request this or write it down on the papers, it gives you a basis to argue later if they do balance bill you. Let's say the radiologist sends you the full retail value of the bill. Let's say the laboratory is independent. They send you the full retail value of the bill. It gives you a basis to argue to your insurance company and to these providers that I requested participating providers, I requested network providers, and I didn't have any choice over this, and I did everything I could to make sure I was in network. You're giving me emergency care, and therefore you're not gonna retail bill me. You're not gonna bill me for the full retail value. You're gonna take the discounted price with the health insurance company.
Now, I understand that a lot of times the doctor walks in and says, we want to do this test, that test, this test. And it's hard to look at the doctor and say, doctor, are you under my plan? And are all these tests under my plan? Good doctors will quite often say, this is under your plan, or if it's not under their plan, they'll say, look, this isn't under your plan. We have to call and get authorization for it and find out why they refuse it if they don't give it. Good doctors would be cognizant of that and be aware of it. Good hospital administrators are watching that and will let you know, because the last thing you need is going through a significant illness or injury and all of a sudden be hit with a huge bill that you find out is there because the hospital you went to or the doctors you were using did not follow the protocols and provide the care that was allowed and did not get permission for additional care. If they call and can't get the permission for additional care, they can still come to you and say, okay, we don't have permission. Do you want to do this? But in the first instance, you want your doctors, you want your people checking to see if the care is covered.
Well, you're right. And permission to do a diagnostic test like an MRI is good, but that's not the end of the story, because permission, okay, we're going to do the test on you, we're going to give you the MRI, but are the doctors going to do this? Are the technicians, are they part of the participating plan? And your best point when you go to the emergency room is right at the beginning. If they're going to admit you without paperwork, then you request or verbally request. If they're going to admit you with paperwork, you put it on there. I want participating providers only. And as Brad just said, good hospital management understands that when you come here with an Aetna card or a Blue Cross Blue Shield card or ABC insurance card, that you're going to want to be covered by those providers in the network, and you don't want to be surprised by all these bills later. But we're going to get to that point when you are surprised. They didn't tell you. They didn't clear it. 3 out of the 7 doctors that treated you or were specialists in the emergency room were not in your network, and they send you the perfect retail value of the bill. And there's things that you can do about it, because, Brad, a lot of the case law and a lot of the law points to, what your intent was. If you're trying to get somebody in your network, and you're not just voluntarily picking doctors outside your network, you have a basis to argue that you don't get the retail value bill. Not a guaranteed slam dunk.
Now, also remember, the hospital, let's say all else fails and the hospital's still there. There is a Colorado statute 25-3-112, which says that the hospital, just the hospital, cannot charge you more than the lowest negotiated price offered to insurance carriers or third parties. So the hospital's bill may be able to be reduced anyway, but don't get to that point. Don't get to that point if you don't have to. And if the hospitals are ever trying to bring in a third party, or I don't even call them third parties, Gary, I call them extra parties.
Right.
You've got yourself, you're one party. You've got your hospital and your doctors, they're the second party. You've got your third party, who is your health insurance company. If they're trying to bring in an extra party to this dance, you're going, why? I don't need them. They shouldn't be in this. There's no reason for that extra party to be there, and you tell the extra party to butt out. You don't want them there. They shouldn't be there, because believe me, they're not there for any other reason but to make money. And the way they're going to make money is they're going to try and get whatever they can that's not otherwise being negotiated between you, your insurance company, and the hospital, so they can put it in their pocket and give some of it to the hospital. That's why they've been invited in or allowed into the hospital rooms, to be able to start talking to you about getting additional information.
Well, think about this another way, and think about it this way. You go to the emergency room. Let's say you're going to have 7 doctors look at you for various reasons: radiologists, blood. You're going to have lab work. You're going to have prescriptions. You're going to have emergency room doctors. You're going to have nurses. Okay, so the hospital's already set this emergency room up where they know that if you come in with a ABC health insurance card, some of these doctors aren't participating in that plan. And then it's kind of a surprise to you later. You get home, you get a bill from the radiologist for $3,000. You get a bill from the MRI, let's say $1,500. And they say they were independent. And they say they're not part of the hospital. And they say they have the right to do this because they're not part of your network. That's what needs to be disclosed to you. Your best approach, your best position is to request at the very beginning of your emergency treatment that you be given a network treatment, network providers, and network doctors.
These bills can be devastating to you. They can be enough that they'll break you. They can cause it so you won't be able to your credit gets ruined. You won't be able to pay, to do other things. You're going to have constantly these bills hanging over you. There are things that need to be dealt with immediately. And these bills, the third-party billing like Evectus, what they do can quite often be devastating to a person and cause the person to be unable to get care or be unable to take care of themselves or address other necessary, required matters. And they're doing it, folks, with what I call the cream. It's pure profit that they're going after.
Right, and when you have a health insurance card, you expect to be covered. You expect the charges to be reasonable, and the charges as ones that were negotiated between the hospital and the insurance company and the doctor. That's what you expect. That's why you have the card. You want it for peace of mind. And what you get sometimes is anything but, and we've told you don't sign these Avexis forms, but even so, you have a position to argue. You get all these balanced billings from these doctors, let's say 3 out of 7 in the emergency room, 3 out of 7 give you the balanced billing, and you just about fall over when you see the bill. You thought you had health insurance, but they say they weren't in the provider, and then they say they can balance bill you. You insist. You get with your insurance company. You don't leave them alone. You insist they solve this. They negotiate with these doctors. They solve it. They reduce it. They pay them. Because you had no choice from the emergency room, and you asked for participating providers, and they didn't give them to you. So it's the thing that you've got to do. That's the emergency room picture. That's the emergency room picture. Make sure, and a lot of times you have no choice. But that is your argument later. That's your position later. You have no choice. All right, we got a break coming up, and after the break, we're going to be talking about a couple of wrap-up points. But you need to understand this is very critical. It's critical to your pocketbook. It's critical to how you get health care. It's critical to how you get care in an accident. There are other ways to get care. We've covered them in other shows. All right. You're listening to the Bell and Pollock Legal Show. Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. We are your champions of the people, and we will be right back.
Ready for an extraordinary lunch? As fast or as slow as you want it? With all fresh ingredients? Caitlin's Restaurant has it all. Express lunches that won't keep you waiting. Or if you prefer, lunch served in that old-fashioned homemade style. All made fresh on the spot. Whether it's a fresh-made sandwich with homemade chips, quesadilla loaded with cheddar or jack cheeses, or scratch-made soups, you'll find everything you love at Caitlin's. Caitlin's is located on Mississippi just east of Colorado Boulevard next to Bookies. How about green chili chicken stew? Think about a variety of fresh-made sandwiches or 11 different kinds of burgers made to order with 1/2 pound of the finest USDA choice lean ground beef. You might favor a homemade New Mexican recipe with carne adobada burritos, chicken enchiladas, carnitas burritos served with hash browns, special recipe beans, cheeses with guacamole, and your choice of homemade red or green chili sauces. For those who prefer the lighter side, there are fresh made salads and lighter fares, sure to delight. Try Caitlin's for lunch or breakfast on Mississippi just east of Colorado Boulevard next to Bookies. Call 303-798-6600. You'll love it every bite of the way.
You're on your way to the store, then boom, you're T-boned at 45 miles per hour. Instead of shopping, you're on your way to the ER. Then comes the doctor visits, prescriptions, therapy, diagnostics, ongoing treatment, and the limitations. You have range of motion problems. Then the ultimate insult. The insurance company makes you feel like the crash was your fault. You need a legal game plan. You want a legal game plan. At Bell & Pollock, we've used over 25 years of experience to develop a legal game plan just for you. Our game plan has injury rules, rules of treatment, rules of claims, insurance company rules, litigation rules, rules they use to beat you. Now you can have them and know them and use them to protect you and your family. Our Bell & Pollock legal game plan gives you the rules the insurance company doesn't want you to have, or know, or use. But guess what? We do. At Bell & Pollock, success is no accident. Find us at championsofthepeople.com. That's championsofthepeople.com. Get your free initial consult and your free legal game plan. We'll help you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Bell & Pollock Legal Show. We are injury attorneys. If you want to reach us, just go to our website, championsofthepeople.com. Now, Brad, let's talk about a thing that we haven't talked about in the show today. Let's say you live in not a metropolitan area in Colorado, but you live in a more rural area, and the number of doctors are limited. And so there's also an obligation we need to tell you about that the insurance companies have to make sure that they've provided enough doctors with enough specialties or pay the amount that the doctors are going to charge.
That's correct. Insurance companies have a duty when they start signing up people to make sure, when they sign them up and say, hey, we want you to use people within our network, they have a duty to make sure they have the people within your network. And they have people that are an adequate number of people within the network. There are laws which will protect you with regard to that. So you have to make sure they maintain what they call an adequate network. And that's under 10-16-704 also. And what's inadequate or adequate will depend a lot on what the insurance company is, where they're writing their policies, who they're writing their policies for, what areas they're writing it for, what areas of specialty they provide insurance coverage for. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors. But the bottom line is, if you find yourself in a situation where you're not getting coverage on insurance that's been written for you, and it's in an area where you're at and there's just no providers, the first thing you may want to do is call up the insurance commissioner and say, look, I don't think there's adequate coverage here, and I need you to look into what this insurance company is providing.
You know, one more final point. Brad brought this up before we even started the show today. You don't really choose where you have your accident. You don't choose to have, am I going to have my accident today in Denver metropolitan area or Grand Junction, downtown where there's hospitals? You might have it on I-70 out in the Eastern Plains. What about that? And you may have to go to a hospital emergency room you never even heard of. You might have your accident in Cheyenne, Wyoming, out on the highway. You have to go to a hospital that you don't have any choice at and that they never even contemplated this insurance company. So there's ways to fight this. Okay, if you got any questions, you can call us anytime. We're Bell and Pollock, Gary Bell, Brad Pollock. We are injury attorneys. We're on your side. We're on the people's side. As you know, we have been for years. We can help you put your life back together again. Championsofthepeople.com. We are Colorado's premier injury law firm, and we are your champions of the people.